And later, another investigation found that ment's binding affinity to the androgen receptor was actually stronger than testosterone, nandrolone, and even dihydrotestosterone, which is 4 times stronger than testosterone itself. There is always that one compound in the steroid world, the one that sounds too powerful to be real, a compound that is supposed to build insane amounts of muscle. That compound is MENT, also known as Trestolone Acetate. So, does MENT really live up to the hype? In this video, we are going to break it all down for you. We'll go over the history and medical research behind MENT, the side effects and how to manage them, because MENT is a very complicated compound to run. Also, we'll discuss how MENT is used in TRT and in bodybuilding cycles. We'll go over real-world dosages among athletes and discuss all pros and cons of this compound. And finally, we'll answer the big question, is MENT really worth it? So, if you are thinking about trying this compound, this video will cover everything you need to know about it. And now, let's start with the history and medical usage of MENT. MENT was first described in 1963, but at that time, no pharmaceutical company was really interested in developing this drug, as bringing a new compound to the market can cost millions just to get it approved as a prescription drug. So, MENT basically stayed on the bookshelves for about 40 years until around the year 2000, when the well-known pharmaceutical company Estrogen, right here in Germany, which is now Bayer, decided to take a closer look at MENT. They started researching the drug for men hormone replacement therapy as a possible alternative to testosterone. They thought MENT could offer the same anabolic and the endocrine benefits as injectable testosterone, but with a fewer androgenic side effects like prostate growth. That means it could be more comfortable for patients, especially those concerned about prostate cancer. Also, MENT was used as a birth control medication for men, and this is a very important point that we will discuss later. There were several studies done on men using MENT in implant form, and the results were pretty solid and promising. However, Bayer never brought this drug to the market as a prescription drug, and they never developed it into an oral or injectable form for the public. So, MENT remains a research chemical. It is not approved for clinical use by the FDA. However, the raw material is already out there, and some underground labs produce MENT. But it is still pretty rare and not easy to find. And now, let's talk about the structure and characteristics of MENT. MENT is a short name for methyl-nortestosterone acetate, also known as Trestolone Acetate. And as you might guess from the name, it is a hormone derived from the 19-nortestosterone family, also known as nandrolone family, which is the same group that includes trenbolone, DECA, and MPP. You can find MENT acetate, which is the most common. Also, MENT enanthate can be found, and you may come across its oral form. The acetate and enanthate, they are just esters attached to the compound. And acetate is a very fast-acting ester, so ideally, you should inject it daily to keep hormone levels stable in the blood and avoid unwanted side effects from fluctuations. When it comes to the anabolic androgenic ratio of MENT, hear this. On the androgenic scale, it is 650, and on the anabolic scale, it is 2,300. Now remember, these numbers are always compared to testosterone, which has a baseline of 100 to 100. So, on paper, milligram to milligram, MENT looks like it can build 23 times more muscle than testosterone and have about 6.5 times more androgenic side effects than testosterone. But of course, that doesn't translate directly in human results. As I have mentioned before in other videos of this anabolic steroid series, these ratios are based on rat studies in the lab, and they are meant to give us a rough guideline, not an exact prediction. Also worth noting, in one investigation from 1963, scientists reported that MENT's anabolic activity was anywhere from 2.3 to 23 times greater than testosterone, while its androgenic activity was only 3 to 6 times higher. Another investigation in 1998 found MENT to be 10 times more anabolic than testosterone, but with only 2 times the stimulatory effect on prostate. And later, another investigation found that MENT's binding affinity to the androgen receptor was actually stronger than testosterone, nandrolone, and even dihydrotestosterone, which is 4 times stronger than testosterone itself. But again, please keep in mind, all of this data comes from animal studies. So it gives us an idea, but it is not a guarantee of how it works in real world of human use. Let's move now to the side effects of MENT. MENT is classified as an anabolic steroid. However, the androgenic side effects like oily skin, acne, increased body and facial hair growth, and hair loss can all be expected. Now, here is something important. The enzyme 5-alpha reductase that converts testosterone into DHT, which is a much more potent androgen, but with nandrolone, the 5-alpha reductase actually converts it into a weaker metabolite, DHN. That is why nandrolone tends to have a lower androgenic side effects in tissues like the scalp or prostate. But this enzyme does not convert MENT into a weaker metabolite, which means MENT can be more androgenic than nandrolone. And from a hormone replacement therapy perspective, that might be actually a good thing because it means better libido and stronger sexual characteristics for men. If you think about using 5-alpha reductase inhibitors like finasteride or dutasteride, they will not do anything to reduce the androgenic side effects of MENT. So, if oily skin, hair loss, or acne show up, those drugs will not help. When it comes to estrogenic side effects, MENT does convert into a strong synthetic estrogen called 7-alpha methyl estradiol. And this type of estrogen has a very high biological activity. MENT also, like trenbolone, interacts with the progesterone receptor, and the side effects of progesterone are very similar to those caused by estrogen. Also, MENT can raise prolactin levels, and prolactin increases both the concentration of the estrogen receptors and make the estrogen receptors more sensitive to estrogen, especially in breast tissue, which makes it much easier to develop gynecomastia. It is important to note, high prolactin alone does not directly cause gyno. Estrogen is still the main driver behind it, but when prolactin levels go up, it amplifies the effect of estrogen in those tissues. So even a moderate level of estrogen activity that can become much impactful. And also, high prolactin can also lead to lactation in men, which is why managing estrogen alone is not always enough when using MENT. You also need to keep a close eye on prolactin levels. So, if you are getting high estrogenic side effects, you can control estrogen by using aromacin or arimidex. And for prolactin, there are 2 levels of approach. For mild prolactin control, you can try supplements like vitamin B6, or better option would be P5P, which is the active form of vitamin B6 and works more efficiently. But if prolactin is significantly elevated, you may need stronger tools like cabergoline or pramipexole. These are dopamine agonists, and they are very effective at lowering prolactin. And of course, the best option is simply lower your MENT dose or even remove it completely from your cycle. Now, when I think about MENT side effects, what comes to my mind is it is a drug that combines both the side effects of dianabol and trenbolone together. Dianabol converts into a powerful synthetic estrogen like MENT, and trenbolone interacts with the progesterone receptor and can raise prolactin levels like MENT. This combination makes it a very hard compound to manage, and that is why gyno can develop quickly if you are not prepared. Regarding the cardiovascular side effects of MENT, all anabolic androgenic steroids will affect cholesterol levels in a negative way. They tend to lower HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and increase LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. This shift increases your risk of cardiovascular diseases over time. Now, in general, oral steroids are much harsher on cholesterol levels, especially those derived from DHT, like winstrol or anabar, because they don't aromatize into estrogen. And estrogen actually plays a big role in supporting healthy cholesterol levels. So, when a compound does not aromatize, it usually has a worse cardiovascular impact. Since mint does aromatize into estrogen, its impact on cholesterol may be less severe than harsh oral steroids. However, since mint doesn't just convert into any estrogen, it aromatizes into a very strong synthetic estrogen, 7-alpha-methyl estradiol, you can expect 100% to experience extreme water retention, which leads to a significant increase in blood pressure and strong headaches. And to control that water retention, you will likely need high doses of aromatase inhibitors, and the heavy use of AIs can seriously impact your cholesterol levels in a negative way. And based on how strongly mint aromatizes, I can almost guarantee that most users will end up needing blood pressure medications, things like ARBs or ACE inhibitors, even if your cardio is on point and your diet is strict and clean. Mint's effects on blood pressure and fluid retention are that strong. Before we get into how mint affects testosterone suppression, if you are getting any value from this video, please take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you will get notified when I upload the next videos. Let's move now to mint and testosterone suppression. Mint and all hormones derived from the 19-OR family are very well known for being highly suppressive compounds. When using mint, you can expect a complete shutdown of your natural testosterone production. That is because mint acts like a progestin. It activates the progesterone receptors, and progestins are known to suppress the HPTA axis, just like estrogens and androgens. Now remember, mint was originally studied as a form of male birth control, so it will destroy your fertility by crashing sperm production. If you don't want kids in the future, mint might be the ultimate compound for that purpose. So, I wouldn't recommend it for people who plan to come off completely between cycles, or for those who are concerned about their long-term fertility. So now, what about MENT-only cycle without testosterone as a base? I always say in my video that testosterone should be included in every cycle as a base. However, with MENT, we can make an exception. It is one of the few compounds that aromatizes into a powerful form of estradiol. And remember, it was actually tested for use as a testosterone replacement therapy in studies, and the results were very successful. So in this case, yes, you can run MENT without testosterone, but keep in mind the suppressive effects, the prolactin, the estrogen, and the progesterone activity all have to be well managed. Let's talk now about MENT dosages for medical conditions and how it is commonly used among athletes. MENT, as we discussed before, has never been approved as a prescription drug. So, there is no official prescribing guidelines for medical use. However, in the clinical studies that were done on humans, MENT was used in implant form, with dosages ranging from as low as 0.2 milligrams per day up to 1.6 milligrams per day. When you think about it, these are extremely low dosages, which shows how powerful this drug really is. For comparison, in TRT with testosterone, the average weekly dose is 100 to 200 milligrams per week, which breaks down to around 14 to 28 milligrams per day. So again, MENT works at a fraction of the dose and it still delivers strong effects. Now, when it comes to how athletes use MENT, based on anecdotal reports, most people run it between 150 milligrams to 300 milligrams per week. So, what you can really expect in terms of results when you use MENT? MENT can add a significant amount of size, but this comes with a high water retention and a watery look. So, you will get big, but you will lose muscle definition. You can also expect a big increase in strength, which is why some powerlifters like it. But here is my take on MENT. In general, I don't see MENT as a suitable compound for beginners at all, and definitely is not a good compound for people who come off completely between cycles. Of course, MENT is not a contest prep drug, but it can be used during muscle building phases. That said, the extreme water retention makes it tough to assess your physique and track your progress. You will not really know if you are gaining muscle, fat, or just holding water, which makes it harder to make the right adjustments with your diet, training, and overall program. Also, high water retention can impact your sleep, and that can affect your recovery. and it can put high stress on the cardiovascular system. Another important point, this compound is pretty difficult to manage. You may find yourself needing multiple medications to control the side effects, like aromatase inhibitors to reduce aromatization, dopamine agonists to manage prolactin, and blood pressure medications to control blood pressure. So now you are taking 3 or 4 additional drugs which come with their own side effects just to run one compound. So before you think about trying this compound, really weigh the pros and cons and make an informed decision that aligns with your goals. The next point is the availability and supply of MENT. MENT is not available as a pharmaceutical product. However, you can find it produced by underground labs. The most common form is Trestolone Acetate, but you can also find Trestolone Enanthate. You will usually find mints in different concentrations, 50 milligrams, 75 milligrams, or 100 milligrams per milliliter. Now, if you come across an oral version of MENT, I would highly recommend avoiding it. It is most likely going to be a waste of time and money. In general, MENT is not commonly used by professional bodybuilders. Many users also report that MENT is more of a hyped compound, and for the ones who have tried it, they usually don't go back to using it again. And people in general find that trenbolone is a superior drug overall, especially when you weigh the risk to reward ratio. So, if you want to learn more about trenbolone, click on this video.